Alright, so welcome back. In the last video, we handled creating our profile and stuff in the back end and writing the mutation for that. In this one, we're going to handle the same thing on our front end. So we're going to have a profile page and then a create and update profile function. So that is what we're getting into today. Let's get right to it. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is to come into here, to our pages folder. We're going to create a new page here. And we are going to call that page profile.tsx. And then inside here, we're going to have our profile. So let's get a little code up here. So we'll go RFC. That'll create a React functional component for us. And that'll just kind of bootstrap that. It's going to be called profile. And I actually like to move this here to the end of the file. Like that. And then we're gonna have a mutation and stuff here, but let's first just come in and make sure we can import this into our app.tsx. So let's come in here, we'll just go in H1 here, and we'll just say profile. Okay, go ahead and save that. And now let's come over to our app.tsx and bring this in. So for this, we're gonna wanna be authenticated. So we have our is authenticated routes within here. So let's copy this down, and then we're going to have /profile, and then in here we're going to bring in our profile, and that'll auto import there. All right, so go ahead and save that. I have my server running here. All right, coming over here, we see that we have our profile, so that is good. Now let's get into the actual coding here. Okay, so let's start building out. We'll just start building this out first. So let's come over in here and come up top here. And we're gonna start by building out our query here. So this is gonna be our profile query with our ID, our bio, location, all that different information that we might want for our profile. So let's get into that. So we're gonna export this just in case we wanna use it somewhere else. And we're gonna go const, and we're gonna say me_query. And that's going to be equal to GQL, which we're going to have to bring in. That'll auto import there. And then we go backticks, come down below, and we're going to go query me. And then this is where we're going to have our query. So it's going to be our me query. And then we're going to add all the different fields that we want to bring in here for this. All right, so those are all the fields we want for this. And then we want to come down here and just close off our backticks there like that. And that is going to be our me query. We go ahead and save that. All right, so then we want to come down in here and let's come in here and we're going to go const and we're going to say loading, error, and data are the three properties we're going to need. And then we'll go equals use query, which we need to bring in, and we can auto import that there. And then we're going to pass in our query. So that for us is called me query. There it is. And then we're going to go below, say if loading, return loading. And then copy that down, and we can do the same for error. And in here, we actually want to put the error. So again, we'll go error.message, and that'll give us our actual error message in case something goes wrong. And now let's come in here and actually build this out a little bit. So let's give a class name onto this div here. So let's say class name, and that's going to be equal to container. And that's just a class we had already added for some of our other styles, so that'll work for that. And then we're going to come down below here, and we're going to have a p tag here. And inside that, we're just going to go data.me.profile.bio and copy this down a couple more times. And then we're just going to have our location. And we actually got to make sure we close these off. So then we got our profile.location. And the last one we're going to have here is profile.website. And the avatar we're going to bring in later when we do our kind of image there. So that'll be good. So data.profile.websites are last for that. And then above here, we're not going to add this in yet, but we will have, or actually that'll be below here. So below our H1 here, we're also going to have data.me.profile.id. So if there already is a profile, we're going to do ternary here, and then we're going to pass in a function called update. And if there isn't, we're going to have a create profile. So you'll be able to create your actual profile. But for now, let's get rid of that because we haven't created those yet, and let's go and do that. All right, so for our create and our update components here of our profile, we are going to use a package from npm called React Modal. So let's just come over here real quick. All right, so we're going to be using this React Modal package just to give us a quick and easy modal. It's obviously super popular package here, and yeah, we'll be using that. And then also we got to import the types for that as well. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so come into your terminal here, open up a new window here and cd into the web folder. And then we're just going to go yarn add, and it is called react-modal, and let that run. And then once that's done installing, we also want the types for that. So let's go yarn add, and we're going to go -d for development, and then at types/React Modal. All right, so that looks like an installed, no problem. We can close this up. We don't need that right now. And let's come over to our components here and create a new file and call that create profile.tsx. All right, again, let's just go RFC. That'll give us a React functional component to work with. That's great. We can copy this down, paste it here, create profile. That's good. So now we have our base. Now let's we'll just work down from the top here. So give ourselves a little bit of room up here. And again, we're going to do create profile mutation. So that's what we have to do to start with. So let's go const. All right, so that's what our create profile mutation looks like. We're just passing in a bio, location, website, and avatar, creating it, and we're just getting back the ID from that. Okay, now we want to add a little bit of TypeScript here, actually. So come up here, and let's do an interface. And we'll call it profile values. And then here we're going to pass in our actual values. So again, it'll be the same. And don't forget to actually close off up here our backticks. Very important. And spell string right. Okay, and then let's come down here and again create our mutation. So come in here. Bring in use mutation. And pass in your profile mutation. And then we're going to have one more thing here. So we're going to do a comment, pass in a second argument here. And this is going to be called refetch queries. So refetch queries. And then we're going to go like this and pass in an array of the queries that we want to refetch. So we're going to say query. And then we want to refetch, rather, the me query here. So every time we create a profile mutation, we're not going to update our DOM. So we want to actually refetch this me query, which is going to get from anywhere the me query is being used, all these values again. So that's why we want to pass that in there, because we want some update to our DOM. Now we're going to have some state right below here. So let's go like this and say const And this is going to be our modal state. So let's go modal is open and set is open. Then we're going to pass that into use state, which we got to bring in. And we're going to start it as false. Okay. Go ahead and save that. And then below this, we want to do our initial values, and this is the formic again. So const initial values, and we're going to pass in our TypeScript here, profile values that we created. And that again is coming from here. Pass all those in, and that's going to be equal to the same thing. So bio, and all these are going to be empty strings to start. All right, and then we want to create two functions which we're going to use for our modal. So the first one is going to be open modal, and we're going to do arrow function here, and we're going to go set is open, and we'll set that to true if we hit the open modal. And let's copy this down, and then below here we're going to say close modal and set is open, and we'll set that back to false. Now I'm going to go into our login here and copy over the form element from formic. So we're just going to copy all this formic here. And we're going to use that and then switch that over to our create profile. So let's come in here. Okay, and then we want to say field tier 2, bring that in, and error message. So once that is all formatted, we're good, and we can go back and get rid of some of the stuff. So we're going to have a button here, and this is going to be called not login, of course, but create profile. And then we don't need this history.push. Get rid of that. We don't need any local storage here. Get rid of that. We can say create profile for that. We don't need any validation schema for right now. We might come back to that, so we'll just comment that out real quick. We don't actually have a response we need to get, so we can just go straight await create profile. That'll handle that. And now let's come in and change this form up a little bit. All right, so let's go through and just add the different fields that we're going to use for actually creating our profile here. All right, so we have our bio, location, our website. Again, we're going to handle our avatar later, so that doesn't need to be added. So that's all good. And one point of note here is that for this field, we're going to be using a text area. It's going to be a little bit larger for our bio. So in order to do that with formic here, we got to write as text area and type text again. Now we also want to add a little bit of styling to our text area. So come over to our app.css, and I'm just going to paste in what I have for this. So you can go ahead and copy that down, or it will be in the final code there. All right, so now let's actually handle our modal, which this actual form will be inside. So we're going to come up to the top here, and we're going to add a button here. Okay, and inside this button, we're going to say create profile. And we're going to add an on click here. And that is going to equal open modal. All right, so when we hit this, the modal will open, but we don't actually have a modal yet. So let's create that. So come down below here. We're going to say modal. which we have to bring into the top here. So let's do that. From React modal. So we got our modal here. And inside the modal, we're going to have a bunch of different fields. All right, so we got to wrap this entire thing. So bring this modal down to the bottom here. We're going to wrap our whole form here. So all of our formic there. And then you can see we have this custom styles that's underlined here because we haven't actually created that yet. So let's go and create that. So come over to our styles here, and we're going to have a new file. And we're going to call that custom modal styles.ts. And I'm just going to paste this in here. And these are going to be our custom styles. And so this is how we can style our modal. Everything we need. So a few there. So then we want to bring in custom styles up at the top here. That should take care of that. All right, so now we want to see if we can create our profile. So let's come back over to our profile here. And for now, we're just going to actually get rid of all of this because we're not going to have any of that. So let's come here and just try to bring in our create profile. Okay, so go ahead and save that. And then let's come over and check it out. All right, so this is what we're working with right now. So this is our create profile. It's a little small right now. Bump that up for you. And if we click this, we're going to get our bio, our location, and our website here. And then we're going to be able to create our profile just like that. So that's actually exactly what we want to look at. Let's actually try it out. This is a test. Bio, location, Vancouver, website, nix.blog. Let's hit create profile. Okay, so nothing happened there when we created our profile, and let's go and see why that is. So we had to come in here and we had location spelt wrong. So go ahead and fix that. Make sure all your spelling's right. Oftentimes if your mutations do not work, it's often you have something spelt wrong here. So make sure everything matches up fine and you should be good. So let's go back and test it out. All right, so let's come here. We're going to create a bio. We'll say test, a location, test, and a website, test.com. And then we're going to go create profile. And hopefully, let's inspect this. And we can see here, I console.log this, and we're getting our bio, our test, and our location back. So that worked. Now, we're not closing this or anything, and nothing's showing up yet. So let's go create that. All right, so let's come in here, and there's a few things we want to change. Actually, let's go to our profile first and just see if we can do this. So we're going to come and comment out these things. Okay, and now let's just see if those are showing up. Refresh these, and we can see that our values are all showing up here. So that is all very good. But one more thing we want to add is we want to close our modal and submit. So let's add that. So we're going to have our set submitting to false, and then after that, so once everything's done submitting, we're going to go set is open and set that to false, and that'll close our modal for us. Okay, so that should be good for that. Let's actually change this. That's not a capital. That should be a lowercase a. That's good. Just make sure everything's looking good. Now, the next thing we want to do is create an update function here. So we want to update our profile. So let's come back in here and come into our components. And we're going to say a new file. And we're going to say update profile, capital P, .tsx. And And this is going to be quite similar to our create profile. So let's copy over that. And we can just paste this in here. And then let's just go through to the top and start changing things up. So the first thing is everywhere we have this, we're going to want to say update profile. All right, so that's good for that. And we're going to have to come through and do some of those lowercase, but that'll be fine. And we have one more thing we need to add to our update profile, and that is going to be, well, first let's lowercase this and lowercase this. Make sure those are update lowercases. Now let's add an ID here, because that's one difference we're going to have between our create and our update functions. And that's going to be an int, and that's going to be required. So make sure you have that, and then come down below. All right, and then let's keep moving down. This can still be profile values, that's fine, but we're gonna add an ID here too. And that's gonna be a number. And then this, we do want uppercase here, but this can be lowercase. And here we have our create profile mutation. We gotta change this, both of these, to update. Okay, so make sure those match. Again, we're going to want to refetch the query with the me query so that can stay like that. That's good. We're going to have a modal here. That's going to be the same. Now, one other thing, we're going to want to bring in an actual query. And that's why in this profile here, come up here, that's why we exported this query, because we want to use it other places. And one of those places is going to be our update profile. So let's come up to the top here. Below here, and we can just go const, open up some brackets here and say loading error data. That's going to be equal to use query. Bring that in. We're going to pass in the me query here. And auto import that. Okay, and the reason we're doing this is for our update profile, we're actually going to want to have initial values, because when you are updating, you're going to want initial values. So let's come down below this use state here, and we're going to have our loading and our error. And then these initial values are going to be the same here, except for we're going to add an ID here. All right, so these are going to be all our initial values here, and that's coming again from the me query. Update profile, we're going to need to export that. Make sure that's exporting properly. Good. This should say update profile. This modal is going to be the same. That's good. This capital should be lowercase, update profile. That's all good. And then these text areas should all be the same. And this again should be update profile. Okay, so I think that is all we need to do for our update profile. It's looking pretty good. Let's give it a go. So we want to bring that into here. Now we don't want to show the create profile and the update profile at the same time. So what we're going to do is now use this as a conditional. So we're going to go data.me.profile. And if there is a profile, then we're going to call the update profile. And bring that in. And then if there isn't, that's when we want to create our profile. Okay. So go ahead and save that. So let's check it out. All right, so you can see that we do have a profile already. It's showing. And now if we update, we see we have our initial values set like this, and we can change it to something else. So biotest, and then testing, test.com, that's fine. And then if we say update, you can see it closes our modal there, which is exactly what we want. And these update right away. And that's that refetch query that we talked about earlier. All right, so that's it for this video. Hopefully that was useful. In the next one, we'll probably continue building out our profile page and maybe adding to our database models a little bit. All right, thanks for watching.